I just ended a conversation, just had a conversation inside of Stephanie Perry's YouTube coaching program that I'm in. And one of the things that I said that I wanted to talk more about in my channel was passport privilege. I made a video about that a few months ago, I think, or a few weeks ago. And I think that it's a topic that it can be a little controversial. Sometimes it's not a topic that we hear about a lot on our streets, right? But I realized that it's really something that's dear to my heart. I don't know why. At the end of that call, I just started crying. And that was just like 15 minutes ago. And I was like, do I go and create and record a video? I got myself together and I'm like, I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it. And why is it so dear to my heart, and why am I so emotional about this whole passport privilege? And it's really dear to my heart because it's something that I have experienced. And there's a lot of survivor guilt. I don't think that I personally feel any kind of guilt for now having a privileged passport with an American passport, when just a few years ago I had one of the lowest ranked passport, a Congolese passport, right? And so I I just feel like I'm gonna say we, maybe not we. I'm gonna say there are not enough conversations about passport privilege and what it really means, and why when we say if you don't like it, you can just get up and go. Because not everybody can. And I understand that when we say things like that, it's addressed to people who can actually get up and go. And for me, who is now on that side of privileged passport, it still tickles my heart when I hear that, because I know that so many people in my own family, right? It's like so many people cannot just get up and go. And sometimes we take things for granted because that's what privilege is, right? It's like you don't have to think about the things that you don't have because you have the privilege of not having to think about that, whether it's in terms of race, in terms of passport, in terms of gender, of anything, right? When you have a privilege, you don't have to think about uh, the other side, right? And so I don't feel like I don't think that other people need to talk more about it. In a way, I think like use your privilege for sure. When you have it, use it to the fullest. Like I have it now with an American passport and I use it to the fullest, right? But at the same time, I feel like there's still something in my heart that makes me feel very sad about the fact that so many people, most people in the world do not have a strong passport. Most people. And so I wanted to share two stories where I felt very uncomfortable, and where, obviously there's a lot of episodes where the reality of having a weak passport like hit me on the face, just like while you have your friends traveling for the summer, growing up, going to Europe and things like that, and you can't because you can't just get up and go. You need to apply for a visa. Sometimes they deny you a visa, so on and so forth. Okay, so it's a lot of money to do that anyways. But being here, when I came to the US 20 years ago as a student, I had the opportunity to go to Mexico with a class. Okay, and I was a teaching assistant. So there was a professor, I think it was 3 professors, a class with 2 classes of 30 students, I think. Or maybe it was just 1 class of 30 students. I don't remember. But I was a TA. And we got to the airport. So I had my Congolese passport, right? We go to the airport. I knew that I don't think I needed a visa. I'm not sure. I thought I didn't need a visa because I had student residency. I was on a student visa in the US, right? And so I go to the airport and everybody's going through. When it's my turn, they tell me, no, you need a visa to go to Mexico. And I was like, what? Because I knew I didn't need a visa to come back to the US. That's the thing, because I was on a student visa. And it was so embarrassing to be the one that is like, nah, you can't go. Everybody was able to go and board the plane, but I had to stay behind and then rush to the Mexican embassy. At the embassy, they tell me that I need an invitation letter from the university in Mexico, in Guanajuato, to say that yes, I'm going to come and to teach, to lecture in a class and all of that, to deliver a lecture for the class. And it was, not only was it highly stressful, highly embarrassing, and I felt like it was not fair. I felt like it wasn't fair, and I considered not going at all. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just gonna stay home and all that. But in the end, my professor was like, you know what, just do what you have to do. Like, try. Like, we really need you here. So in the end, I was able to get the visa and join them 2 days later. But it kind of tainted the trip for me personally, because it was like I wasn't there at the beginning, and I wasn't there when I expected to be there, and I felt like, you know what, that's just an example, like where you were left out because you don't have the same privileges than other people, and that's something that really marked me. And it's just some of in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world, right? But it was still an experience that was very unpleasant. The second story, or the second thing that happened, it wasn't unpleasant, but it was just very stressful, because after, so my husband and I went on a trip to Europe with our toddler boys. Back then they were 12 months and, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years old, and then 18 months or something like that. And we went to Europe, and I still had my Congolese passport, and they had their American passports, right? Oh my gosh. And it's like you have to stand in different lines, right? You have the U.S. citizen line, you had the resident line, you had the, foreign alien, or however is it that what they called us, and long lines, super long. But the other one is like, yep, all right, good, yep, go. And it's like very easy. And then the whole trip, it was 2 weeks. The whole trip I was a little stressed out, because I was like, if anything happens, they're not gonna come and take me, right? They're gonna take U.S. citizens. They're gonna take my husband and my kids, and I'm gonna be like stranded with my Congolese passport. And so, sure, of course, I enjoyed the trip and all of that, but even like the whole process of immigration, there's a level of stress that you like, you don't want to look at people funny, you don't want to look like you're lost, you don't want to look like you're stressed, there's just that level of stress that is just in you, because you don't want to give the wrong answers. And it's something that you don't have to experience when you have the quote unquote right passport, right? And so I think that with the Congolese passport, early on, when I realized that I didn't have those privileges, I looked up like the countries that I could travel to visa free. And I think it was just Haiti, the Philippines, and maybe 3 or 4 islands somewhere. That's it. Those were the only countries I could go to visa free, and none were African countries. That's another problem. That's another issue in itself. But my point is that I wanted to be able to talk a little more about that, not so much on a rant, in a ranty way, but more as an awareness. And also, I'm a person who likes to bring solutions. Like, I don't like to just talk about the problems and then so it's like, okay, so what? What are you going to do about it? And one of the ways that I was able to have my passport privilege now is by immigrating here to the US. Okay? And so you would never ever hear me say, ever, you would never hear me tell somebody not to move to the US. Never, ever. You will never hear me say that the American dream is not real. That's another thing. I will never say that, because I'm a product of the American dream. And again, there might be different definitions of the American dream. My definition worked for me, even though the American dream at some point becomes an illusion. Okay, I'm aware of that. That is like, okay, you do this, check, you do this, check, you do this, check. And then it's like, this is not sustainable, right? It's like this whole working for money all the time, is not sustainable. So there are certain things that you can get. And I would say, because I'm proof of that, and my siblings are proof of that, that you can come here and get those things. And then you can have the privilege of considering turning around and saying, you know what, I think I want to leave now. Right? So I feel like the American dream for immigrants give you that. It gives you the possibility of taking something, serving, because we pay taxes here as immigrants, right? You pay taxes, you pay for school, you pay for everything, right? And then you have the possibility of taking that money, some of the money that you make, and spend it somewhere else, just like expats do in general, right? And so I feel like that's my solution for anybody who wants to, do the same thing that I did. I always tell my story. I always tell people what I did. And I came here for school with zero student loan debt, zero. And that's a topic that I can talk about in another video, like how I was able to get my bachelor's, my master's, and my PhD with zero student loan debt. And so I was able to check the boxes and get the thing. And again, there's also an immigrant privilege in there, right? So there's the immigrant privilege where you don't have to deal with certain things that American-born Americans have to deal with. I'm aware of that, and that's a privilege that I have as well, right? So, like I said at the beginning of the video, do not renounce your privilege. Be aware of it, but use it. Whatever your privilege is, use it, and at the same time, not just use it selfishly to yourself, but use it to help other people. So for me, that's why I would say to others who want to come to here to the US, I would never say, no, don't come here. It's because I came here that now I can turn around and say, well, my family's moving to Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah, that's exactly why. So today I really wanted to talk about like a little bit about passport privilege. And there's also another YouTuber, if you're aware of him, Tayo Aina. He has a YouTube channel, Instagram, and all that. He talks about his experience as a Nigerian to be able to travel to certain countries, but having to apply for a visa for most countries in the world, right? And so what he had to do to be able to continue his dream as a filmmaker, as a videographer, a storyteller, is to get a passport from another country. And the country he picked was St. Kitts, I think, something like that, in the Caribbean. So now he has that passport. Now he can travel to Europe visa free, for example, right? And so these are stories that are not often told, but we mostly hear about, okay, I'm tired of America and I'm leaving. Okay. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that it's not possible for most people in the world. Not to bash anybody, more power to you. Like I said, use your privilege, because I'm using it as well when I say, hey, we're moving, right? So, but just to say that I personally feel a little conflicted with this whole thing. I don't really have feel guilt anymore. I think that at some point I felt some survivor guilt about it. But now my solution is, okay, how do I help my cousins? How do I help? And by cousin, it doesn't mean like specifically my family, but people who were in my situation. And that's why I always tell people about what I did to come here and how I came here and how I got my degrees debt free and how all of that, right? And how for immigrants, the American dream is real. Okay? So I hope this video was insightful. And if you have any questions about the immigrant experience coming in the US, And being a third culture kid too, that's another thing for another video as well. But if you have any questions about that, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. If you were born here, if you came here as an immigrant, what are your thoughts about passport privilege? I would love to know and have a discussion about it. All right. I'm going to link the previous video that I made about passport privilege right here, somewhere here. And yeah, I can't wait to hear your comments all about that. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye.